I was actually weeks old, which is crazy because I have 3 older sisters. I obviously don't remember, but my parents brought me to the field, and that's just pretty much where it all started. I always went to the field to see my older sisters play. I remember taking naps actually at the softball field, and I absolutely loved it because I would be falling asleep and hearing the game in the background, and it was always nice to fall asleep too. But I started out in Rancho Ace Softball, which is just our little league around my town that I grew up in. And then from there, I went on travel ball teams with my dad when he coached me when I was younger. And then I kind of just worked my way up and played travel ball my entire life. And then that's kind of where I met Mike Stith and Marty Tyson and everybody. And that's where I eventually got recruited and played college ball. Yeah, so my sisters are kind of older than me. My oldest sister is 10 years older than me, and then 7 years older than me that played softball. So I definitely grew up watching them play. My eldest went to University of Oklahoma. So I feel like I was in Oklahoma almost every single weekend watching her play, and I absolutely loved it. Although I didn't watch much of the game, I was actually playing wall ball at the stadium, but I was definitely around the game of softball watching them. And they kind of just taught me, how to play and what to expect. Even at the young age, I play shortstop, and I wore number 99 because of my oldest sister. And, they just ultimately brought me into this game, and they're the reason why I definitely fell in love with this game, because I grew up watching them, and as a younger sister, I wanted to be just like my older sisters. It was competitive. It was very competitive. I knew what my goal was, and for me, that was to be a D1 athlete, and I knew what I had to do in order to get there. I knew what coaches and what organizations I needed to go to in order to achieve that goal, and I wasn't going to stand down. My parents did everything, and I'm super thankful that they did everything and sacrificed so much for me to be able to do that. But yeah, we have, like you said, SoCal has great softball. We have great weather. We can play all year round, and so I think that obviously gives us a little step forward. But we have great competition. We take it very serious. We pride ourselves on wanting to win every single tournament that we are in, and so I think that's what really allowed me to be the best that I have been able to be, because we competed every single day I got into the field. There was nothing less. So when I played with the Batbusters, definitely the Firecrackers. They were very, very, very good when we played them. Crony Angels as well. Even some of the back east teams, North Florida, which had Carly Hoover on it. I remember playing them as well. Texas Glory, actually, I remember that. I don't know if it was a rivalry, but it was always definitely a very good game. I don't even remember what grade I was in, but when I was on the Batbusters, I would probably argue about 90% of that roster went D1. We were legit. We had Katiana Mauga, who went to Arizona, Sierra Romero, Brittany Moai, who went to UCLA with me. We had Chip, Alexis Bennett, who went to UCLA with me. The list goes on. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we were just stacked, and it was awesome. And then my senior year, when I played with Mike Stith, we had Amanda Lorenz, we had Hannah Flippin, we have Seychelle Palacios. It was. I just surrounded myself with just incredible players. I think Mike Stith did an incredible job of preparing me for college. He did not expect anything less than my absolute best every time I stepped on the field, whether it was practice, whether it was hitting an STC, or whether it was a one-on-one fielding session at Chino Hills Community Park. He expected so much from me, and so I think that ultimately carried over when I went to UCLA. He was hard on his athletes, but to the point where he knew his athletes at the same time. So he knew me personally to where he knew that he could yell at me and I would respond to him. That may not work for some of his other athletes, and he understood that. So But definitely when I got to college, I understood that it was not going to be easy. I understood that I needed that, the student athlete part of it. And he also preached that on us as well, of getting my work done during the week. That way I can have fun on the weekend, which is softball. So I think that was also important going into college. So when I was getting recruited, I was in 8th grade. I was playing for Doug Myers, Batbusters. And to be honest, it was a lot of fun. We went to a lot of exposure tournaments, and at that time, actually, we played, like, there was a #1 champion in these exposure tournaments, and it was a lot of fun competing and winning. And me personally, I didn't really notice the college coaches in the crowd, and I think that's like the ultimate goal, is that you just want to play, and you just want to be yourself, and it doesn't matter who's in the crowd. And so just when I started getting recruited, I remember when our recruiter at the time told me that UCLA was interested in me, and I kind of laughed it off, like, no way. Like, maybe they're just looking at some of my other teammates, and they're like, no, they're looking at you, like, they're interested in you. And I was like, oh, wow, like, okay, so, like, I have a shot at this. Like, I can play at UCLA. And so I finished out that summer. I went on a unofficial visit to UCLA. I absolutely fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with the history of UCLA softball. And it didn't take me long after that to when I committed to UCLA. And then now, I did not know it at the time, but now looking back at why I chose UCLA is because it was only an hour from my family. It was very close. I had a family member in the stands every single game of my career. The only time I did not actually was when my nephew was being born. And that's another thing, is I was there for every single family. It's something important that happened in my family, and I didn't know it back then when I recruited to UCLA, but I'm just so thankful that I did, because family is a huge part of my life, and to be an hour away from my family going to school at UCLA was very crucial. I remember my freshman year, I was just, wide-eyed, so happy, and just looking at Allie Carta, looking at Stephanie LaRosa. They're all Americans, and just soaking in every single moment, having conversations with Lisa Fernandez, and working on my hitting, and Kirk Walker, that was his first year as well at UCLA. And so just eating up all of this information. There is, a weight on your shoulders to make it back to the World Series, and to have, this tradition and this, legend status of UCLA. But at the same time, they made it so easy to just have fun and to be comfortable on the field, because that's ultimately, like, where we shine and where we just have fun and we can be ourselves. So that was freshman year, that was definitely what I would say. I just soaked it all in. Yes, I knew that she was a multi-Olympian, and that she was, arguably the greatest pitcher in softball, and her caliber of just her competitive greatness, and on and off the field, and at the plate, and on the mound, and how she held all of her teammates accountable. And I think that's why she has so much respect in this game, is because she didn't let you slack off, because she wasn't slacking off. It wasn't like she would tell you something and then she wouldn't do it. No, Lisa is definitely, she will tell you to do something, and then she'll go right back and she'll do it herself. And so that's why she had so much respect in this game. I would definitely, so I think I have two. Allie Carta, I played with her at UCLA, and then also now on the national team. She's just a very uplifting person, very positive. But at the same time, when she's in the circle, she has this, like, demeanor of she's gonna get it done. Even if she doesn't get it done, it doesn't faze her. And that's what I love as a shortstop, when I see my pitcher take charge and have that just demeanor and that straight face of, it doesn't matter who's at the plate, it doesn't matter the score, it doesn't matter the game. Like, Allie Carta is Allie Carta every single day. That's what I absolutely love. And then on the other side of that is Haley McClenny. I think she is absolutely the most positive, fun-loving. She absolutely loves the sport of softball. She goes ham every single day on the field, and I love to be around that. She makes the game fun. She has really, really weird sayings, and it just brings light to the entire situation and to the game, and that's something I can really respect and love to be around. It's really hard. Okay, I would say Stephanie LaRosa, actually. She was a very quiet leader. I was fortunate enough to hit in front of her when I was a freshman at UCLA, and so she actually was constantly talking to me while she was on deck, and that brought a ton of confidence in me when I was just a freshman that I believe personally carried on throughout the rest of my career. So Stephanie LaRosa, definitely, she has just like, we call it quiet thunder at UCLA that she had, and it reflected onto a lot of girls on that team. Another one actually is Chitty, not because you're in the room, but Chitty. We've had a ton of conversations in the past years that we've been on the team. In 2016, I would just always pick her brain because she was just always so positive and always so cheery, and I was never that player, and I'm still not that player, but I do it in different ways. And so when I saw how she was and how it displayed or how it came off differently, I was so intrigued by that. And so I wanted to ask her questions. And then, so that was in 2016. And then fast forward to 2020, and we're teammates again for the Olympic team. And so I just thought that, Chitty and I's relationship as far as teammates and friends, it just kind of all came together in 2020. And again, I would just pick her brain and I would tell her, I'm not really feeling it today. I'm not really myself today. Help me out. And she would just immediately like, snap out of it, Delaney. Like, what? You're in 2020. You're in the national team, and somebody else would be blessed to be in this situation. And so, she just really brought perspective, point of view, positivity into my life. She was a great leader. And so, yeah, Chitty. I've definitely developed throughout my career, and a lot of it has to do with being on Team USA. I always thought earlier in my career that in order to mean business, you have to look business. You have to carry yourself business-like, meaning no smiling, no laughing. Just get it done on the field, and that's it. I have definitely grown differently in that I can laugh on the field, I can smile on the field, but yet I still have that business mentality of getting it done. And so I love the way that I play now because I am zoned in, focused on the next pitch, but at the same time, I'm probably talking to my second baseman and laughing with her and telling her a joke or something, and that's just how I play now. And it doesn't mean that I'm not, focused, I'm not lasered in, because I absolutely am. And so I love how my game has evolved. I've become, I would say, more me off the field, on the field, if that makes sense. I think off the field, I am kind of like that kind of goofy girl, and now I can kind of translate that on the field with still having that business mentality. Well, obviously, social media is a huge part of really just life right now. And so I think social media is a reflection of how you want to be seen, of how you want to be judged, of how you want to perceive to your teammates and to your fans and to your coaches and who you represent. For me, it's the United States, and then for anybody else, it could be their professional team or their college team. So obviously, brand is very important. For me personally, I would want to have a positive brand. I would want it to reflect my family and where I come from, and I think that's really important in this day and age, to be uplifting, to support women, to support my and my teammates. And that's something that I learned coming from UCLA. Social media, it wasn't terribly important then. And then now, obviously, it's just taken off. And then it comes at the time when I am on the Olympic team. And so having that also, just constantly thinking about what I'm wearing, constantly thinking about what I'm saying, I think is really important. I could be in the background of somebody's pictures. I can be in the background of somebody's videos. And so, being a professional softball athlete, just being constantly aware of how I am perceived, basically. I think women's athletes, especially women's softball, we take pride in the fact that we're relatable and that we are, strong women and that we support each other. And so to display that on our social media, I think is really important. It actually came when I made the Olympic team. I just think of just reaching out to people and trying to connect with people, and then for them to see me off the field as well as on the field. I think, athletes can attest to the fact that we're not really the same person on the field that we are off the field. I'm a much different, the way that I carry myself or the way that I react to something on the field is much different than off the field. And so to just really distinct those two, you can do that on social media. And so I think that's what kind of clicked it for me. I would definitely say is to be uplifting, is to watch everything that you do, because we live in a world where a retweet or a like even can cost you a scholarship, or can cost you your dream job, or your dream to be the next shortstop for the Olympic team. And so just to make sure that you think about what you say. If your grandma wouldn't approve of it, then don't put it on social media, is what I kind of always think to myself. And that's something that's really important, is you don't want to ever be perceived a different way than how you were thinking. It was actually my senior year. I was playing for Mike, and it was the last tournament of the year. And I remember I just was not contributing at all on the offensive side of the game. And I was so frustrated because, I was hitting third in the lineup, and so that's kind of my role, is to produce runs, and I couldn't do that for the life of me. And I remember being so upset with myself. It was the last tournament, it was my last time playing with my best friends, and just being so defeated. And the very last game, I just found success in the very last game of the tournament, and it just obviously just brought back every single year before that, and growing up and playing softball before I went off to play college ball. And so I think it was kind of just a full glimpse of my travel ball life and softball life, that this game is very hard. It's a game of failure. We hear that 1,000 times in this sport, but at the same time, it is so worth it, because I got to play 4 years at UCLA going through these trials and these failures in order to get to the top of my game and to get to where I wanted to be in my end goal, which was D1 softball. So now I have gotten so much better with talking to myself. And it's not a standard that I have for myself by any means, but I know that I'm not going to get a hit every single time. And so knowing that, I can be okay with the fact that I don't get a hit. And so I think going back to when I was, in middle school, growing up playing travel ball, I obviously was putting so much pressure on myself to go 3 for 3 every single game, or to not make an error on the field, and it's just impossible. And so now, going through college and now going in professionally, I definitely, have matured, and I expect myself, but I know better to not, put so much pressure on myself to, be perfect. And so that's definitely something that I have grown and matured in, is just talking to myself and knowing that it's going to be okay, Delaney. I would definitely say the weight room is so important. I barely lifted in high school, and then we had to lift in college, obviously. But I will be the first one to tell you that I did not like lifting in college. 6 a.m. weights were not fun. But now that I have to do it on my own. I ultimately work out on my own now, and I have my own trainer, and I do my own, or have a program that my trainer gives me. It is so important. I have seen direct correlation with how I lift and what I lift carry into my swing and how I hit in the box. And I just seeing those results and seeing how that has affected my game, it just is a no-brainer for me now throughout my entire career. Once I get healthy, I'm going to start lifting hard again. I'm going to start pushing weight and ultimately dominating the weight room. Honestly, it was not having UCLA and not having that structure and not having that I have to be at 6 a.m. weights and not having I have to be at 12 o'clock practice. It was me being on my own and me ultimately realizing that I want to make the 2020 Olympic team. In order to do that, I need to be great in all facets of my game, and that includes the weight room. And once I saw direct translation into the game and how it affected my swing and how stable and strong I was with my swing, it was a no-brainer for me. So once I was done with UCLA, I was on the national team, and so knowing my goal of being an Olympian, of wanting to be an Olympian, I immediately called up Mike Stith again, and I said, look, I need to come back in. I need to get in a routine. Can we start hitting? Can we start fielding? And then he actually just developed a new program for strength and conditioning as well. So I got in touch with them, and I got into a nice routine, and it has lasted me about 2 years now. And then just getting back into the routine of hitting, of fielding, and then strength and conditioning, I think is really beneficial. I came to SCC and worked out 4 days a week. We would work out in the morning for about 3 hours. That consisted of of dynamics, of speed and agility, and then I would lift. And then depending on the day, Mike would tell me, we're going to go to the local field, or we'll hit here. And that changed every day. Whatever Mike told me to do, I would just do it. So we started our Olympic tour in Florida, and we've been practicing for about 2 weeks then. And then we had our very first game, February 4th. We had our very first game at University of South Florida, which is our head coach's college. And it was, I want to say, the 6th inning. It was going to be my last at bat of the game. And I was running through first base. There was an overthrow. I checked the overthrow, and I told myself to go to second base. Obviously, my brain was working way faster than my body. I went to go to second base, and I just fell flat on my stomach. I knew right away what happened. I got 2 MRIs. They both pretty much told me the same exact thing, ACL meniscus. And I had some conversations with my family, and I decided to forgo surgery at the time. I was going to put a brace on. I was going to do some therapy to strengthen the muscles around my knee to hopefully compensate my ACL. And I was just going to stick it out. I mean, my ultimate dream was to be an Olympian. I made that happen. And then the very first game, I tear my ACL. That could be, a terrible story. I wasn't going to make it like that. I was going to do whatever I can possible to be able to make it to Tokyo and to play shortstop in Tokyo. And so that's what my plan was, and I was sticking to that plan. This is definitely a story that you hear other people tell about them. You never expect it to happen to you. The fact that it happened to me, I think I was in shock at first, and then it just hit me all over again. The first couple days were really, really hard, and then all of a sudden, this peace came over me, this moment, it just triggered, and I was okay. I had so many positive people around me. Nobody told me that I couldn't do it. The doctors, they never told me they couldn't do it. They were actually telling me different athletes and other athletes of different sports that competed at the highest level with an ACL tear. And so, I didn't have anybody telling me I couldn't do it. So I just had all the confidence in the world, really. I have never had an injury. And so what a time to have an ACL tear. Okay, so I got clearance from my trainer or from my physical therapist to go travel with my team. We made the decision to go to Seattle, Washington to play the Huskies in a game. And that was actually the time to when I can start hitting. And I was really, really pumped because I hit off the tee and I was feeling so good. And there was little whispers at the time of COVID, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. But I just remember being so pumped because I was swinging, I had zero pain, I was so excited, everything was looking up. And then we get back to the hotel and we have the conversation of coronavirus. Washington pretty much shut down. The game was going to be canceled, so we didn't really have any point to be there. So we all flew home. And then now we're seeing in the news like, oh, 2020 is canceled. Okay, wait, 2020 is postponed. Okay, but there's no official word yet. And so at this time, I am doing rehab at home because I wanted to save my physical therapy visits, basically, in case I got surgery. And so I'm just doing my workout at home and trying to follow along on the news and everything. And then we finally got word that it was going to be postponed until 2021. I immediately got on the phone with USA Softball and with the doctor that I went to at the University of Utah, and I told him I need to get surgery ASAP. And unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, elective surgeries were not being performed, so I had to wait another month. They were probably so tired of me because I was calling them and calling them and calling them, like, okay, is it open yet? Okay, is it open? Okay, when's the next surgery? I want to be the first on the list. And so I was very, very thankful for the University of Utah and USA Softball because they got me in as quick as possible. I got surgery on May 5th, and I drove there because I didn't want to risk any type of exposure to COVID flying. So my mom and I drove to Utah. I got a COVID test May 1st. I had to quarantine, obviously, for those couple of days before I got my results. Obviously, it came back negative. And then I got my dad flew in. I got my surgery May 5th. And then I left Utah May 7th. And it was crazy. Nobody can come into the room with me because of COVID. So I was, my very first surgery, my very first injury, I was all by myself, but it was all good. They made me totally comfortable and everything. So, but yeah, the surgery was a success. I mean, it turned out great. And so now I'm just in my recovery process and I feel great. So again, social media, I was very fortunate to receive tons of support through social media and a lot of messages, and they told me that ACL recovery is very, very mentally exhausting. And I always pride myself on being a very mentally tough person. I never really get too high, too low. But I did not expect anything of what I'm going through now. I mean, there was times when I would be thinking to myself, like, I'm never going to walk again. And obviously that's pretty dramatic, but I didn't walk for about 5 weeks, and I couldn't bend my leg until about 8 weeks. And so there was a lot that was going through my mind of, am I ever going to play softball again? Am I ever going to walk again? And that, obviously, I knew I was going to get through it. I had never had an injury before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to feel. And then with the mental side of an injury is just getting out of your own way and just allowing yourself to let the physical therapist and trusting the process and trusting your physical therapist, because obviously this is their career, so they know what they're doing, they know what they're saying. And so just going through that, and then obviously I've had more good days than bad days, and I'm very thankful for that, and getting on track and staying on track and getting stronger and being able to start running again. I was worried about walking, and then now I can say that I'm lightly jogging, is just all really positive. So my first tryout was the junior national team. It was in Chula Vista, California, when they had their softball team there. It was, it's the Olympic Training Center for USA. But I was in the 8th grade. I remember me and like Mo Mercado were the youngest ones there, and it was just like it was crazy. I just remember just being so young, and then just playing softball, and I was roommates with Madison Shipman, and wow, all of these memories are coming back. And just playing against Ali Carta and playing against Lauren Chamberlain and all of these obviously great athletes. And unfortunately, I did not make that team, but I then again got another tryout for the national team when I was a junior in college. And I remember getting the email and texting my head coach, Coach Inouye Perez at UCLA. And I remember texting her. I said, "Hey, are you in the office?" She's like, "Yeah." So I drove up to the office, to the stadium, and I showed her the email, and I said, "Is this real? Like, what is this?" I thought I was getting scammed. Like, I didn't know what it was. And she just puts my phone down and gives me a big hug, and she's like, "Yeah, it's real. You just got invited to the national team." And so that was in 2016. And we had tryouts in January, and I was very fortunate enough to make the team then. That was actually a world championship year in Canada, and that was a lot of fun. And then I've been on the team ever since 2016. So tryouts are a lot. They are very taxing on your body, mentally as well. The very first morning half is skills, and so you tell them ahead of time what positions you play, and so you get ground balls at those positions, and if you boot a ball, you're out. Like, if, it's just, they're evaluating on your skills. And then from there, we just play scrimmages, and so it's just games, 7-inning games, maybe even longer, to make sure that every pitcher pitches, and you're just getting at bats, and you're just playing a game. And so obviously you can get in your own head. I mean, going back to this game is a game of failure, and you're at the United States national team tryout and you don't get a hit. I mean, obviously you're going to be going to bed thinking like, okay, I didn't get a hit today. I have to do good tomorrow. But obviously, I mean, you know how that can go. And so you just need to remember that, go back to yourself and go back to your happy place and just play the game. And so obviously it's a very mentally tough, challenge, but they do that for a reason. We went to the Dominican Republic in 2017, and it was just a qualifier, and it was our biggest tournament of the season, of the summer, and I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that we were going to go stay at a resort. I knew we were going to play Pan American countries, but when I got there, I mean, I was pretty much shocked. I mean, there was trash everywhere. There was traffic lights, but they weren't abiding by them. It was just a very eye-opening of how blessed we are to live here in America. I mean, it was like I said, it was just very eye-opening to see the Dominican Republic and to witness that. Basically, we walked to the games, and the facility was awesome. That they really they made it beautiful for us, and so that was great. But it was definitely an experience, I would say. And then the next one I would definitely say is the top moment of my entire career was when we qualified for the Olympics. That was in 2018. It was in Japan. We were playing at Zozo Marine Stadium, which is their professional baseball team out there. It's a big, huge stadium. And we played Team Japan, so of course the stadium was rocking for Team Japan, and we beat them in extra innings, and we actually went on a walk-off, and we dogpiled, we did the whole thing, and it was just the highlight of my career. I was crying. I mean, we all were crying. We met right after with our coach, and he was getting emotional, and then I see the girls getting emotional, then I'm getting emotional. It's just, we were exhausted. We were so happy. We were relieved. There's all these types of emotions that just come out in your tears that we were feeling. We were so excited that we could get softball back into the Olympics officially, because we qualified for the Olympics, and so it was just a lot of emotions that came out all in that moment. That was incredible to share with those girls. I would say, obviously, it's an honor, and it's something that you dream of. But I would be lying if I said it didn't come with a lot of pressure. Because of the fact that we've been out for 12 years, because of the fact that we did not win in 2008, those are just, the pressures that it comes with. But the team and these girls, we have been together for so long, and some girls, may have done a different path, or they may have gone on a different team, but then we all come back to each other. And so I think that's what's really cool about this team as well, is that we all knew each other one way or another. And so I think that also helps us with this game, is because we are so close off the field that it translates on the field. And so, with the pressures that I said, it kind of just is in the back of our mind. Of course, we want to represent the United States well. We want to bring a gold medal back to the United States, but we also just have so much fun, and we play this game well, and we know that we do, and that ultimately when we get to Tokyo, people here in the United States, they're going to have our back, and they're going to support us, and we know that. I think we handle it by just staying in the grind, I would say. When we were on tour, and when we are prepping to go on tour in the past years, it's a grind. I mean, we have two-a-days, we have a strength coach, we were conditioning, and so I think as long as we knew that we were prepared, that pressure doesn't really build up. When you're not prepared, then obviously, you have all of these negative thoughts in your mind. And the game creates enough pressure on its own. And so to add more pressure to that is kind of useless. And so we knew that. So we were going to be prepared in every aspect of this game against every single opponent. And that's what I think really allowed us to take a deep breath. I would say when people think of Delaney Spaulding, I would definitely want them to be okay with who they are, in the means that when I was growing up in the game, I was very much so perceived differently than how I am because of the look on my face, or because of how I carried myself. And that's when I say that I have grown a lot. And now I obviously play a little differently. But at the same time, I didn't lose sight of who I was and the player that I was, because I knew that's what people may have been saying about me wasn't necessarily true. So now that I am who I am, and now that with the power of social media and being able to tell that story, that's what kind of I want to leave behind. Is some people may say things about you, but have people in your corner who can attest to that, who can't say that about you, who can have your back and tell you, no, Delaney actually is not like that. This is just how she plays. She's just a grinder on the field. She actually will, give you a pat on the back when you do something well. You know what I mean? So leaving the legacy of it's okay to, be kind of hard-headed, or it's okay to have a fierce look on your face while playing softball, and you're having so much fun, although it's not translated on your face. And so I think just leaving that behind, of just staying true to who you are. So I would say a lot is weighted on this whole coronavirus, and so hopefully, I know there's talks and conversations about 2021 Olympics, and so crossing our fingers that it happens. It may look a little different, but that's okay. And so I am now training really hard and rehabbing really hard all the way throughout this entire year to get my ACL in tip-top shape. And then in 2021, I am going to be training really, really hard the team for the Olympics now in 2021. And then obviously after that, we're in another mission and another fight to get softball back into the Olympics. Having a little taste of USA softball and the Olympic dream again, I absolutely am not going to stop playing softball. I always dreamt about, since I've gone on this team, going to multiple Olympics. And so going back into that fight and going back into that mission of getting Olympics or softball back into the Olympics again for 24 and even 28 in LA, I think is going to be something personally that I want to help with. And then for me personally, also playing in the 2028 Olympic Games if they're in softball. Obviously 2024 in Paris, and then 2028 in LA as well. I'll be 32. Prime, right? Prime age to play. So yeah, I definitely don't think I'm done playing, or I know I'm not done playing. So we're gonna strive for 2024, and then definitely in 2028. I would say for me personally, I've always been kind of ball is life. Like I want to play softball until I can't play softball anymore. And so, avenues with that, Pro Fast Pitch, it isn't MLB by any means. We're actually, trying to grow it. We're trying to find different avenues within professional softball as well, with a new league that we're actually just starting, and we're hearing very positive things from that. So that's looking great. There's also overseas. I know there's Italy, there's Japan, Australia even, that are great. And so that is definitely something that I have been, kind of researching and looking into post 2020 and figuring out, really where my career is going to go, because like I said, I don't want to stop playing softball after 2020 Olympics. So definitely those types of avenues, professional softball, it's going to grow. It's going to get there, and I'm looking forward to it. So I actually went to my sister's a little bit as well, to just really kind of like the business side of signing with a product deal or an apparel deal as well. But like you said, I mean, there wasn't a ton of people to go to. I do have an agent, but I mean, it's just having those conversations with people that you are close to. Jen Schroeder actually helped me a lot to get Nike, and I had conversations about, they wanted to grow Nike softball and how to grow Nike softball, because it really never existed. And so, being on the front end of that and helping growing Nike softball is something that is really, really exciting for me in my career as well. I was the first Nike athlete to be signed since Andrea Duran, which was 10 years ago. So that was a real big accomplishment for me, and I think for softball as well. And now there's 5 of us that are Nike athletes. And then from there, you see other type of softball products that are now sponsoring athletes. I'm sponsored by Louisville Slugger and Wilson Ball Glove. And then you see like a DeMarini, who's also a partner, and just other type of softball athletes that are sponsored by Softball Product. And so the sponsorships are there. I think when you see professional softball going up, you're also going to see the endorsements going up. I think it's a kind of a 2-for-1. But like I said, we just need to grow professional softball. We need to get on TV past college, the college game, and then from there you'll see other avenues of this game growing as well. In 2028, I would definitely say the dream would be to be playing shortstop for Team USA in Los Angeles, have all my family there in the stands. It's our hometown, and so that would be amazing. And then, for the game, obviously, just to see it excel past college. Obviously, college is it's excelling and it's exceeding every expectation as far as television, as far as viewership. Everything. The game has grown so much in that aspect. And so getting that past college, I think would be awesome. And in 2028, 8 years from now, I think it has the potential of getting there. And, we're heading in the right direction, I feel like, with some, new things in softball. So I think in 2028, a perfect world, softball is excelling in all avenues and every single sport, travel ball, or every single level, travel ball, high school, college, and professionally.